Okay, hello guys, and I'm back with my channel here to the vlogging for the F1 season ahead. I'm going to start off with a review really of the Australian Grand Prix. I'm going to preview every race and review every race of the 2014 season from every driver's point of view. I'm going to be doing this race with coverage from Australia then from a classic race on the F1 2013 game. Then I'm going to be doing it with the Austerman, Eddie Irvine. So we'll do a 5-lap race and try and get through as much as possible in the 5 laps. So we'll go straight into the race and we'll talk about Albert Park, Melbourne. So the new Formula 1 season is upon us, finally. We're looking forward to such a classic season. It's going to be such a classic season as well. New engines, new rules, new everything basically, and it's certainly taken its toll on Sebastian Vettel. Really, the Renault engine doesn't seem good enough at the moment to compete with the top teams at the moment in engine supplier. Number 1 is currently, as we all would know, is Mercedes, because they completely dominated the Grand Prix in Australia. Shame for Lewis Hamilton though, he couldn't really do much about his problems. We understand he had a problem going to the grid, and he knew he had a problem, and he radioed in early on really say he had a problem. It was just a matter of time on how long it would take for Lewis to retire. The new engines, in my point of view, for this season, a bit quiet, but hey, that's F1. There has to be change. I think change is good for Formula 1, I think. You don't want to see the same old winning every event. Because back 10 years ago, Schumacher was at the peak of his 7 world titles. This was his final year, 10 years ago, 2004. Well, he would have been his last Formula 1 world title. Maybe Sebastian Vettel's won his last Formula 1 title. We'll have to find out. Qualifying was very interesting, really, I think, for Australia. Started in dry. I was even watching the race. I was all relaxed. I was fine. I was a bit pleased about this year's qualifying session compared to 2013, when the qualifying was called off after the first qualifying session, and you had to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning the next day in order to watch the qualifying session. So I ended up staying up all night on a Saturday night and going to Sunday morning to watch the race and get some sleep during the Sunday. I did the same thing this year, but didn't stay up all night on Sunday. I only got 2 hours sleep on Sunday to watch the race. But qualifying surprised me a lot. Jenson Button there making some errors in Q2 in order to put himself P11. Mistimed the weather completely. Another driver that surprised me was actually Sebastian Vettel. I didn't really expect him to be so far down, but the qualifier of the day for the Grand Prix in Australia had to have been the new... Oh dear, I've ran wide. This is me thinking about a Red Bull driver. It had to have been Daniel Ricciardo. He'd done a fantastic job, and I was so pleased for Danny. I was really, really pleased for Daniel Ricciardo in front of his home crowd. And what makes F1 great this year is because the engines have turned down so much, you can hear the fans screaming and shouting when someone they want wins the race. And you saw Sebastian Vettel go out of Q2, looked up at the screen, saw he was out of the top 10, saw that little hand gesture he made in the car, and you could hear the crowd absolutely going mental. You know now Sebastian Vettel is going to really not have as many fans as he did back a few years ago. Going into the race, Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel retiring early on. I expected a couple of retirements. I expected really 10 minimum retirements in Albert Park, but it wasn't to be really. It was actually a good amount of cars finished. Nico Rosberg dominating the entire race. doing an absolutely fantastic job of it, and I think really the rookie of the day was Kevin Magnussen, or as my mate likes to call him, Kevin Magnesium. But yeah, it was a good race for him, finishing third, matching Lewis Hamilton's debut back in 2007, qualifying in P4 and finishing in P3. Later that day though, that would become P2 after Daniel Ricciardo got disqualified for fuel consumption irregularities. I'm not too sure why really this rule has come in. You're getting penalised now for saving fuel. So what? Are we all supposed to race around on the least amount of fuel possible and end up running out of fuel come the end of the race? I think that's just a stupid rule to add. So I think, in my point of view, Ricciardo's finished second. But what the FIA says goes. I'm a McLaren fan, I know. Jenson Button did well to finish on the podium after Ricciardo's disqualification. And Massa was very shocked about his first corner incident. Really, in my point of view, the first corner incident in Albert Park, it was just driver mistake. Really, it was out of Kobayashi's hands. He got off the grid well. He went into turn one, ended up locking his brakes, and when you lock your brakes, I've just made a complete hash of that chicane, by the way. That is absolutely horrendous drive there. But when you lock your brakes, you don't go anywhere and you crash into the wall. So yeah, that was I don't think that was Kobayashi's. It was Kobayashi's fault in a way, but he couldn't control what happened to it there. But it was all in all, it was a really good race. Ferrari had a mid-pack performance. I mean, that just went to show their Ferrari engines are good, but the only problem with the Ferrari engines is it eats up fuel, and we know it eats up fuel. So they're going to have to save, and maybe they can get disqualified from the next race if you're going to disqualify everybody for saving fuel for every Grand Prix. But yeah, I think really the debutante's performance, as I said, Kevin Magnussen, P3 on his debut, fantastic debut as well for the new Russian Danny Fiat, or however you'd like to call him, Fiat or Kvyat, or who knows, just call him Russian. He did a fantastic job. Marcus Ericsson retired. He was the third and last debutant, and coincidentally, Marcus Ericsson is the first Swede to race in Formula 1 since Stefan Johansson. For all those who don't know, back in the early 90s, I believe it was. So yes, so it's great to see a Swede back on the grid. For 2014, maybe I can just try and beat Nigel Mansell here and give Eddie Irvine a repeat of his victory here. The reason why I'm doing this with Eddie Irvine is because this is the race he got his maiden Formula 1 win at back in 1999 in this very car, the 1999 F399 car number 4. But I think Nigel Mansell is just going to nick it. But yeah, that is then my review, should I call it, of the 2013 Australian Grand Prix. The future of Formula 1 has begun. The new era of Formula 1 has begun. I will be doing a Malaysian Grand Prix preview, a look towards the next Grand Prix coming up next week. And the race will be next weekend, live on BBC and live on Sky Sports. I will be then bringing you that preview. But that is my input and my reaction for the 2013 Australian Grand Prix. The new era has begun. New engines, new look of the cars. My best looking car to point out is the Mercedes. Worst looking car to point out, it's got to be the Lotus, my point of view. In the comments, what do you think is the worst and the best looking car, and what do you think of the engines? So if you liked my video here, like and subscribe. I'll be bringing you a lot more, and I will see you for the next video, which will be the Malaysian Grand Prix preview. Thank you. I'll see you there. Bye bye.